All right, Reddit, I've been lurking here for a while, reading other people's stories thinking that could never happen to me. But now I find myself sitting here with a drink in one hand and my heart in pieces, wondering how my life turned into this nightmare. I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts, but here we are. Let me introduce myself. My name is Matt, and I've been married to Lisa for 10 years. 10 years of ups and downs, laughs and tears, sacrifices and dreams. We weren't perfect, but I thought we had something real. Something worth fighting for. But apparently I was the only one fighting. I'm no detective. But even I could tell it wasn't the C she usually wore. My heart sank still. I said nothing. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed proof this morning. I woke up early and checked her phone while she was in the shower. She left it unlocked and I couldn't resist. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her messages, and there it was, a string of texts from someone named Ryan. They weren't exactly subtle. Last night was incredible. One read, "I can't stop thinking about you." Another one said, "Can we meet again?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind raced with a million thoughts. Who was this? Ryan. How long had this been going on? Did she ever love me? Or had I been nothing more than a safety net, while she played me for a fool? When Lisa came out of the shower, she was humming to herself like nothing was wrong. I confronted her right then and there, phone in hand. "Who's Ryan?" I demanded. She froze, the color draining from her face for a moment. I thought she was going to deny it, but then she smirked like she'd been caught sneaking a cookie, not betraying her husband of 10 years. "Ryan is someone who makes me feel alive," she said, her tone so casual it made my blood boil. "I'm sorry, Matt, but I can't keep pretending you're a great guy, but I need more excitement, more passion." I stared at her, stunned. "So what are you saying, you're leaving me for him?" Lisa shrugged, as if the decision hadn't already been made. "I don't know, maybe I just need some time to figure things out." That's when I said it. The words just spilled out, fueled by anger and heartbreak. "All right, go ahead," I told her, "but the moment you step out that door, our marriage is finished. Don't ever think about coming back." Her eyes widened, and for a split second I saw a flicker of doubt, but then she grabbed her purse, her keys, and walked out without another word. Now I'm sitting here alone in our house, wondering if I made the right call. Part of me wants to fight for her, for us. But another part, the part that's tired of being lied to and disrespect, Ed, knows I deserve better. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But one thing's for sure, I'll never be the same. The house felt unnaturally quiet after Lisa left. It was like the silence itself mocked me, filling the void she used to occupy for the first time in years. I didn't hear her humming in the kitchen or the sound of her heels echoing through the hallway. I just sat there staring at the door. She walked out of replaying everything that had happened. The gravity of my ultimate hit me like a freight train. This is it. I thought, no more pretending, no more excuses, no more marriage. I had drawn a line in the sand, and she crossed it without hesitation. But the worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I never really had her to begin with. At least not the version of her I thought. I knew I tried distracting myself. I cleaned the house not because it needed it, but because it kept my hands busy. I even turned on the TV, though I couldn't tell you what was playing. My mind was elsewhere, stuck in an endless loop of how and why. How could she do this? Why wasn't I enough? By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know how long this had been going on and what else she'd lied about. That's when I remembered her laptop. Lisa wasn't the most tech-savvy person, and I had a hunch she hadn't bothered to lock it. Sure enough, when I opened it, the screen lit up, revealing a sea of open tabs and saved password words. I started with her emails. Most were mundane work updates, newsletters, online shopping receipts. But then I found a folder labeled Personal. My heart pounded as I clicked on it, half hoping it would be empty. It wasn't inside. Were dozens of emails between Lisa and Ryan, each one more damning than the last. They had been seeing each other for over a year. A year while I was planning anniversary dinners and working overtime to save for a vacation she was sneaking off to meet him. There were photos, too, some of them so intimate I felt sick to my stomach. It was like someone had ripped the blinders off, forcing me to see the ugly truth. I'd been too naive or too trusting to notice, but the emails revealed more than just their affair. They talked about me. Ryan had asked her why she was still with me, and her response cut me deeper than any knife ever could. "Matt's safe." She wrote, "Heck, predictable, dependable, and good for appearances. But he's not exciting, not like you." I slammed the laptop shut, unable to read another word. I felt like a fool, a placeholder in my own marriage. All those years I spent trying to make her happy, and for what? So she could turn around and tell some stranger I was nothing more than a backup plan. I wanted to confront her, to call her and demand. She explained herself, but I stopped myself. What was the point? She'd already made her choice, and as much as it hurt, I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. No, I needed to focus on the next steps, whatever those were. Later that night, I heard a knock at the door. For a moment, I thought it was Lisa coming back to beg for forgiveness, but when I opened the door, it wasn't her. It was my neighbor, Greg. He looked concerned, holding a casserole dish in his hands. "Hey, Matt," he said awkwardly. "I heard some shouting earlier. Everything okay?" Greg and I weren't exactly close, but we'd always been on good terms. He lived next door with his wife and 2 kids. The picture-perfect suburban family. I almost envied him now. Yeah, I lied, just a rough day. He didn't look convinced. Well, if you ever need to talk, you know where to find me. Oh, and here Julie made too much lasagna. I accepted the dish with a forced smile, thanking him before shutting the door. The lasagna went untouched. I wasn't hungry. All I could think about was Lisa and Ryan and the mess they left me to clean up that night. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face smirking, unapologetic, like she hadn't just destroyed the life we built together. When I finally drifted off, it was to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was a text from Lisa. "I hope you're okay." It read, "We should talk soon." I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. Talk after everything she'd done. She wanted to talk. I deleted the message without responding. If she thought I'd make this easy for her, she was dead wrong. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I had been hit by a truck. My mind was still racing from everything I had uncovered. And Lisa's text haunted me. "We should talk soon." What did she think? This was a minor misunderstanding we could sort out over coffee. The audacity made my blood boil. I knew she wasn't sorry. She didn't regret what she'd done. She just didn't want to deal with the fallout. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, staring blankly out the window. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of another buzz from my phone. This time it wasn't Lisa. It was my best friend, Jake. "Hey man, his message read you good. I saw Lisa downtown last night. She looked cozy with some dude." My stomach churned. Jake didn't know about the situation yet, but his text confirmed what I already knew. Lisa hadn't just stepped out for space. She had run straight to Ryan. I didn't reply to him right away. I didn't have the energy to explain everything. Instead, I took another sip of coffee and decided to focus on the only thing I could control myself. I spent most of the day in a fog trying to piece together what my next move should be. Part of me wanted to pack up her things and dump them on Ryan's doorstep. Another part of me wanted to burn every memory of her and pretend she never existed. But deep down, I knew I needed to approach this logically. Rash decisions would only make things worse. That's when I remembered the joint bank account. I opened my laptop and logged into our online banking portal. My heart sank as I scanned through the transactions Lisa had been withdrawing money in small amounts for months. Nothing too noticeable, but it added up. There were charges at expensive restaurants, hotel bookings, and even a jewelry store. My hands shook as I realized the full extent of her betrayal. She wasn't just cheating on me emotionally, she was using our money to fund her affair. I knew I had to act fast if she thought she could take advantage of me. She was in for a rude awakening. I transferred every last penny from the joint account into my personal one and immediately called the bank to freeze her access. By the time she realized what I'd done, it would be too late that evening. I got another text from her. This time it was less casual. "Matt, what did you do with the money? I tried to pay for something and my card was declined. I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't much, but it felt like a small victory. She wanted to play games, fine. Two could play at that. I moved it." I replied, "You don't get to use my money to fund your little love nest." Her response came almost immediately. "Are you serious right now? That money isn't just yours, it's ours." "Not anymore." More, I shot back. "You forfeited your right to it the second you decided Ryan was more important than your husband." There was a long pause before her next message came through. "We need to talk." I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to face her yet, not until I had more answers. The emails had given me a glimpse into her deceit, but I knew there was more to uncover. I wanted the full story, no matter how much it hurt the next day. I reached out to a private investigator. I explained the situation, and within minutes he agreed to take the case. It wasn't cheap, but I needed concrete evidence, not just for myself, but for the inevitable divorce proceedings. If Lisa thought she could walk away from this, unscathed, she was in for a rude awakening. The investigator wasted no time. By the end of the week, he had gathered a treasure trove of information, photos, videos, even receipts. Ryan wasn't just some random fling, he was married too. His wife had no idea what was going on, and from the looks of it, neither did their 2 kids. The thought of confronting Lisa with all this made my stomach churn, but I knew it had to be done. I sat on the couch that night flipping through the investigator report. Each page felt like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. I saw photos of Lisa and Ryan laughing together at a fancy restaurant, holding hands on a park bench, even sneaking into a hotel late at night. My blood boiled, but more than that, I felt a deep, crushing sadness. How could she do this to me, to us? Then I saw something that made my heart stop, a receipt for a spa day. But it wasn't just for Lisa. It was for 2 people. The name on the receipt. Lisa and her best friend Claire had always been close to Lisa. They'd been inseparable since college, and I never suspected anything of her, but now I couldn't ignore the possibility. Had Claire known all along? Was she helping Lisa cover up her affair? The betrayal felt endless, like I was trapped in a nightmare that kept getting worse. As I stared at the report, my phone buzzed again. It was Lisa. "Matt, please Leeton talk. I'll come by tomorrow. We can figure this out for a moment." I considered agreeing. Part of me wanted to hear her side to see if there was any chance of salvaging what we had. But then I remembered the smirk on her face when I confronted her, the texts, the photos, the lies. I wasn't ready to face her, not yet, not until I was sure I could hold my ground. I put my phone down and poured myself another drink. Tomorrow was going to be a turning point. I could feel it the next day, felt like it stretched on forever. I was a bundle of nerves pacing back and forth in the living room while I waited for Lisa to show up. I had barely slept the night before, my mind replaying every piece of evidence I'd uncovered, the photos, the texts, the receipts, all of it confirmed what I already knew. The woman I married had been living a double life. Around 4 p.m., I heard the familiar sound of her car pulling into the driveway. My heart pounded as I watched her step out, dressed like she had just walked out of a fashion magazine. She looked perfect as always, but I couldn't unsee the lies beneath her polished exterior. I took a deep breath and steeled myself for what was about to come. She knocked on the door side, softly, almost hesitantly. I waited a few seconds before opening it, letting her squirm a little. When I finally did, I didn't say a word, just stepped aside and motioned for her to come in. "Thanks," she murmured, brushing past me. Her perfume lingered in the air, but instead of comforting me like it once did, it felt suffocating. We stood in awkward silence for a moment before she spoke. "Matt, I don't even know where to start. How about the truth?" I said. My voice cold and steady. That would be a good place. Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, fear. "I never meant to hurt you," she began, but I cut her off. "Spare me the cliches, Lisa. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did over and over again, so let's skip the part where you pretend to feel bad and get to the part where you explain why." She sighed and sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. For a moment, I thought she might actually cry, but when she looked up, her eyes were dry. "It's not that simple. Matt, then simplify it for me." I shot back. "Why Ryan? Why lie to me for over a year? And while we're at it, why was CLA involved?" "Dawn, think I don't know about the spa day." Her head snapped up at the mention of CLA, and I saw the panic flash across her face. "TLA has nothing to do with this," she said quickly, too quickly. "Don't lie to me again, Lisa." I warned. "I've seen the receipts." "She knew, didn't she? She helped you cover it up." Lisa hesitated, and for a moment I thought she might deny it, but then she slumped back against the couch, defeated. "Fine. Yes, CLA knew she didn't approve, but she covered for me." She said, "Yes, my best friend, Matt." She was trying to be supportive. "Supportive," I repeated, incredulous of what you cheating on your husband. Her face twisted with frustration. "You don't understand. I felt trapped, Matt, our life. It was so predictable. I needed something more, and you thought the solution was to betray me, to lie to my face for over a year." My voice rose with each word, but I didn't care. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me, to us?" "I didn't plan for this to happen," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It just did." I laughed bitterly. "Things like this don't just happen, Lisa. You made a choice every time you texted him, every time you snuck off to meet him, every time you spend our money on your little escapades. You made a choice." She didn't respond, just stared at the floor like a child caught stealing candy. The silence was deafening, and for a moment I wondered if she'd even try to defend herself. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Matt, I think I love him." It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. "You think you love him?" I repeated, my voice hollow. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but yes, I do." I stood there stunned as the weight of her words settled over me. She didn't just betray me physically, she gave her heart to someone else, and she didn't even have the decency to feel ashamed. "Well," I said finally, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and heartbreak, "I hope he's worth it, because as far as I'm concerned, you and I are done, Matt, please," she said, standing up and reaching for my hand. "Can't we talk about this? Maybe go to therapy, or no." I pulled my hand away, like her touch burned me. "There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choice, Lisa. Now you have to live with it." She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't interested in hearing any more excuses. "Get out," I said firmly. "I don't want to see you anymore. Matt, get out." My voice was louder this time, leaving no room for negotiation. She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes wide with disbelief, but when she realized I wasn't backing down, she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Just before she walked out, she turned back to look at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she said softly. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stood there watching as she walked out of my life for good this time. When the door closed behind her, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. It wasn't over, not by a long shot, but at least I had taken the first step. I had reclaimed my dignity, my self-respect, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. When the door shut behind Lisa, the silence felt deafening. I stood there staring at the spot where she had just been, the echoes of her last words ringing in my ears. "I'm sorry. Sorry for what? For getting caught, for breaking my heart, for throwing away everything we had built." I didn't know what hurt more, her betrayal or her casual acceptance of it. She had walked out like it was a mere inconvenience, like she could just waltz back in whenever she felt like it. But not this time. This time the door wasn't just shutting on her exit. It was closing on the life we had together. I poured myself a drink and sank into the couch, staring blankly at the wall. The relief I had felt earlier was quickly replaced by a wave of emptiness. 10 years of marriage gone in the blink of an eye. How had it come to this? Had I been blind, or had she just been that good at hiding who she truly was? Later that evening, I got a call from Jake. He didn't mince words. "All right, man, what's going on? I saw Lisa to downtown with that guy again. You need to tell me what's happening." So I told him everything. The affair, the text, the lies. He listened in stunned silence before finally saying, "Matt, you deserve so much better than this. You know that, right?" "I don't know what I deserve anymore," I admitted, "but I know I can't keep living like this. You won't have to." He said firmly, "We'll figure it out. Whatever you need. I'm here." It was comforting to hear, but it didn't change the fact that I was on my own. Now, Jake couldn't fix this for me. No one could. That night I slept in the guest room. Our bed felt tainted, like it belonged to a life I no longer recognized. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, I realized I had a choice to make. I could wallow in self-pity, or I could start taking steps to rebuild my life. The latter felt impossible at the moment, but I knew it was the only way forward. The next day I called my lawyer. It was time to start the process of cutting ties legally and emotionally. If Lisa wanted freedom, I would give it to her along with the consequences of her choices. The day after I contacted my lawyer, I finally felt like I was gaining some control over the situation. The paperwork would take time, but at least I was moving forward. I didn't want Lisa dragging her feet or trying to manipulate me into second-guessing my decision. This was the clean break I needed. Even if it tore me apart in the process around mid-afternoon, as I was sorting through old photos of us, my phone rang. It wasn't a number I recognized, but something told me to pick it up. "Hello," I answered, bracing myself for yet another curveball. "Is this Matt?" a woman's voice asked. Cautious, but direct. "Yeah, who's asking?" "This is Sarah, Ryan's wife." I nearly dropped the phone for a moment. I didn't know what to say. Ryan's wife. I had even considered her. All I could manage was, "How did you get my number, your wife?" she said bluntly. "Lisa texted me trying to explain everything after she found out you'd frozen the accounts." I didn't believe a word of it. "So I did some digging and found your name. Lisa contacted you." I asked, stunned, why to make me feel sorry for her. "I guess," Sarah replied bitterly. "She told me you were being unreasonable, that you froze the money out of spite. But when I asked her why she needed the money so badly, she avoided the question. That's when I knew something was up. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The audacity of Lisa to spin the narrative like she was the victim was almost impressive. Almost, Sarah. I said carefully, "If you were calling me, I'm guessing you already know what's going on." She hesitated. "I do. I found some things on Ryan's phone, messages, photos. It's clear he and have been involved for how long, I'm not sure, a year." I said flatly. At least there was silence on the other end of the line when she finally spoke again. Her voice was tight. I figured it was something like that. I just didn't want to believe it. "I know the feeling," I said, my tone softer. Now, despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy for Sarah. She was as much a victim in this mess as I was. "Look," she said, her voice growing firmer. "I don't know what your plans are, but I'm not letting Ryan get away with this. He thinks he can live this double life without consequences. He's got another thing coming." Her words stirred something in me. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. "What are you thinking?" I asked cautiously. "I don't know yet." She admitted, "But I wanted to reach out, see if you'd be willing to work together. They didn't just betray us, they humiliated us. I think we deserve some answers. Don't you?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Yeah, we do." We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop in town. As I hung up the phone, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a sliver of hope. Maybe confronting this head-on with someone who understood my pain would finally give me the closure I needed. The next day I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early. My nerves were all over the place. I wasn't sure what to expect from Sarah, whether she'd be angry, vengeful, or just as lost as I was. All I knew was that this meeting could change everything. Sarah walked in right on time. She was about my age, with an air of quiet confidence that I wasn't expecting. Her expression was serious, her eyes sharp, like she'd been through hell but wasn't going to let it break her. She spotted me right away and walked over. "Matt." She asked, her voice steady but guarded. "That's me," I said, standing to shake her hand. "Sarah, right?" She nodded, and we both sat down for a moment. Neither of us said anything. It felt surreal sitting across from the wife of the man who had torn my marriage apart. "I'll be honest." She began, breaking the silence. "I wasn't sure about meeting you, but after everything I found out, I need to know the full story. Same here. I admitted it's been a mess, and I'm still trying to piece it all together." She pulled a folder out of her bag and slid it across the table. I brought proof messages, photos, everything I could find on Ryan's phone and computer. I hesitated before opening it, knowing that whatever was inside would only add to my heartbreak. But I couldn't turn back now. I flipped through the folder and my stomach churned. There were texts between Ryan and Lisa that were sickeningly familiar to the ones I'd found on Lisa's phone. Sweet nothings, explicit plans for their meetups, even jokes at my expense. One message stood out. Ryan had written, "I can't believe he hasn't figured it out yet. Must be nice being married to someone so clueless." Lisa's response, "It makes things easier, doesn't it?" Matt has no idea. I clenched my fist, the paper crumpling slightly in my hands. Sarah must have noticed because she spoke up. "I've seen it all, Matt. Trust me, it doesn't get any easier." I nodded, trying to keep my emotions in check. "How long have you known?" "About a week." She said I was suspicious for a while. He was acting different, hiding his phone, coming home late. Then I found a message from Lisa, and well, here we are. I told her everything I had uncovered, the texts, the photos, the joint account she drained. Sarah listened intently, her expression a mix of anger and determination. "They're not just shade cheaters," she said. "When I finished, they're cowards. They've been living a fantasy while we're left to pick up the pieces." I couldn't argue with that, so what do we do? I asked, unsure of how far she was willing to go. Sarah leaned forward, her voice low but firm. "We expose them. They think they've gotten away with it, that we're just going to roll over and let them have their happily ever after, but they're wrong." Her resolve was contagious for the first time in weeks. I felt like I had a purpose beyond just surviving. "All right," I said, "I'm in." "What's the plan?" She smiled, faintly, a glimmer of satisfaction in her eyes. "We start by letting them know we're not as clueless as they think." Sarah and I spent the next few days preparing. We wanted to confront Lisa and Ryan on our terms, with no room for denial. "Sarah, as meticulous as she was furious. Suggested we gather everything we had, the texts, the photos, the receipts, and present it to them all at once. It's not just about exposing them, she said over the phone. It's about making them understand the damage they've caused. When the day came, we decided to meet at a neutral location, a private meeting room Sarah had rented at a small event space. The room was quiet, sterile, and perfect for what we had planned. I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation as I sat at the table waiting for Lisa and Ryan to arrive. They showed up together, looking smug and confident. Lisa had clearly dressed to impress, as if she thought she could charm her way out of this. Ryan, on the other hand, looked annoyed, like this was a waste of his time. "What's this about?" Lisa asked, her tone light. "But wait, Matt, you've been so dramatic lately. Can we just sit?" Sarah cut her off, her voice sharp. Lisa blinked, clearly taken aback by Sarah's nuanced tone. Ryan frowned but complied, taking a seat across. "From us, this isn't a casual chat," I said, sliding the folder of evidence across the table. "It's time for the truth." Lisa hesitated, glancing at Ryan, who opened the folder and began flipping through the contents. His smirk faded as he realized what he was looking at: the texts, the photos, the receipts. It was all there, undeniable and damning. "This is ridiculous," Ryan finally said, tossing the folder onto the table. "So what, weck adults? We can do what we want." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes cold. "What you want is to destroy families without a second thought. But guess what? Actions have consequences." Lisa shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. "Matt, I never wanted to hurt you. Don't." I interrupted, my voice firm. "Don't insult me with empty apologies. You made your choices, Lisa, and now you have to live with them." Ryan snorted. "Oh, come on, you're both acting like saints. Let's not pretend your marriage was perfect." "Matt, Lisa told me everything, how boring and predictable you are. She deserves better." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. Instead, I took a deep breath and looked at Lisa. "Is that what you think I asked?" her quietly, "that I was boring, predictable." She looked down, tears up in her eyes. "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered. I felt trapped. Sarah snapped. "You weren't trapped, Lisa. You had a husband who loved you, supported you, and trusted you, and you threw it all away for this." Ryan rolled his eyes. "This is pathetic. We don't have to sit here and listen to this." "You will," Sarah said, her voice. "I see, because if you walk out now, I'll send everything in that folder to your boss, your family, and everyone else who matters to you." Ryan froze, his bravado crumbling. Lisa's eyes widened in panic. "She wouldn't," she said, her voice trembling. "Try me," Sarah replied. The room was tense, the air thick with unspoken threats and lingering resentment. Lisa finally broke the silence, looking at me with pleading eyes. "Matt, please, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy, start fresh." "No," I said firmly. "We're done, Lisa. I've already started the divorce process. You made your choice, and I'm making mine." Lisa started to cry, but I felt nothing. The love I once had for her was gone, replaced by a cold emptiness. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, clearly realizing there was no way out of this, and scathed. "I think we're done here," Sarah said, standing up. "You both know where we stand. Don't contact us again unless it's through our lawyers." Lisa and Ryan left in silence, their confidence shattered as the door closed behind. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. Sarah turned to me and smiled faintly. "We did it." "Yeah," I said, exhaling deeply. We did that night. I went home and started packing up Lisa's things. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about moving on. She had made her bed, and now she could lie in it. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure: I was done being a victim. It was time to rebuild my life one step at a time, and I would on my terms without her.